Okay, good. So let's talk for a little while. Easiest thing I think to do is just start. I wanted you to talk chronologically from as early as you can remember. So let's start with Germany.
Germany.
Where you were born, and tell me about your early childhood.
My early childhood that I remember was we lived in an apartment somewhere close to my dad's store, and I remember when we had gas light when they changed to electricity. There must have been, I might have been 3 or 4 years old. Or
What
5.
city?
In Cologne, Germany. Then my dad, my folks built a house out in the suburb, and evidently he was doing very well because we had a maid and a cook.
What business was he in?
He had a carpet business. He was an expert on Oriental rugs and draperies, upholstery. He had been manager in a department store, Teats, which was all over Europe, like Macy. And he had the carpet department there, and I remember when I was young, he used to go to Turkey to buy Oriental rugs.
How did he get to Turkey?
On a train.
A train. Oh yeah.
And I do remember that one day I was the outside of our house was stucco. I was we just moved in. I was hammering the stucco. Well, that wasn't that. I just remember I was hammering to get it off the thing. And my brother and I, every Christmas, we got gifts. It was anything mechanically, we'd take it apart, and that was it. I remember we got electric steam. Steam came out. We wanted to see how it worked, took it apart, that was the end of it. And next door, they had a little pool, very small pool, but that's where...
Swimming pool?
Yeah. And it wasn't very big, but that's where I learned to swim, and about 5 or 6 years old. And when we got a little older, my sister, brother, and I used to go on bicycle trips, 3 or 4 days. We stayed at the youth house. At that time, it cost maybe a quarter to stay. All you had to do was bring your own sheets, and have a place you could cook. And the way they had them in Europe, were just a day's apart. You could walk maybe 20 miles, 30 miles. They're all over Europe. And at night, they usually have a bonfire, and you meet, that time you meet kids from England, France. I remember that very well. Especially one time, we were going to the youth house, and there was a potato field there. So we decided we'd eat some potatoes. We've been eating these soups, coming powder, that's about all we in bread. So we got some potatoes, and by the time we got to the youth house, the farmer had already a complaint, and they wouldn't let us in. That's a memory. And I had an aunt that lived in a small town called Eitorf. Her husband was a stock dealer. He bought cows and so. So we used to hike and then end up at her house.
How was she related?
She was my father's sister.
What's her name?
Tante Elsa. Tante Elsa and Uncle Otto. And they were my godparents. Because when I was born in 1919, they didn't have any milk. So they sent me to...
Because of the war?
That's right after the war. Germany had lost the war, so they sent me to Eitorf, and they bought a goat. And I was raised on goat milk. So they were my godparents. So anyway, my aunt used to, that old coal stove, she make waffles the day before, stacked that high, and put them in the oven. And when we came, they were like shoe leather. I'll never forget it, but we ate them.
How long did you live in Cologne?
I lived there until 1930. And my dad went bankrupt during the Depression. When he got out of the World War I, out of the army, the Germans had put somebody in there to run his business. All the people that couldn't serve, and he had no business.
What did he do in the army?
I don't know, he was in the infantry. He was both on the Russian and on the Western Front, both. See, he was reserved because he had served his 2 years in the military. That was, everybody had to serve, I think, whatever. So he was called in. But I don't know what he did. He never talked much about it.
All right, so in 1930 you moved to Berlin.
My dad, I was going to tell you, he had to have some capital to build his business back. See, he took in a partner, and they never got along. But they had one car between them, an old car had a rack on top. They used to deliver the carpets, and his partner would ride to work and ride back. My dad walked. He walked in the morning, back at noon, and he always took a nap. 30 minutes. We had to be a little quiet. And so anyway, his brother in Berlin had a small brewery, and somehow my dad, the way he got the money, I don't know, but he invested some money. I think he borrowed it because we lost our home, we lost everything in the bankruptcy. So he invested, and he ran that brewery with his brother. My dad had the night shift, but his brother forgot to pay the tax on the beer. So they put his brother in jail, and the brewery went out of business. And I've never found out how my dad got in the coal business. We moved to a suburb called Pankow, which is a suburb of Berlin. And they had a coal yard. In Germany, they all had coal stoves. They were like tile stove, and the soft coal is put in bricks, and the bricks are in a box that you could strap and carry. And there were two sizes. One was 110 pound, 50 kilo, or 160 pound. Well, when I was maybe 13 or 12 years old, after school, I worked in the yard. And pretty soon I was carrying boxes, 110 pound boxes. You have a leather apron on the back, and the strap, you wrap it around you, and you got the customer had to pay a nickel for every first floor would be a nickel, No, the second floor, most of those apartments were 4 stories. So if you carried it 4 stories, you got 20 cents more than, and you usually tip your dime too, even then. So I always had money. I was tired, but I used to, after school, I helped with the coal yard, and then I'd go eat supper and lay on the couch and sleep, and they had time to wake me up to go to bed. But anyway, we also, Uncle Adolf, Tante Elsa I told you about, well, his father lived in Berlin, and he had a horse and a wagon. So we needed a horse and wagon, so he was, my dad employed him. He was the laziest man I ever met.
But you used the horse and wagon?
Yeah, see, we delivered, and then he wanted me to split this.
Now, this was your dad's sister? This is your dad's brother-in-law?
Yeah, he wanted me to split with him, but he didn't care, and he took that with that horse. And that horse, every time a street car passed, it would raise up. But anyway, it was those were tough times. We'd get a car of coal, and yet if you didn't empty it in 24 hours, you had to pay a penalty. And I remember, I don't know what it was, maybe 80 marks, or my dad said maybe he didn't have quite enough money, and I always had money, and I had to give back to him so he could pay the freight. And I remember the rent was 100 marks a month. But he never had 100 marks. But some widow, old lady, owned it. And he sent me with $20 on the bicycle to pay every week. And I had to listen to her complaints that he wouldn't go. And that was one of my jobs. But by the end of the month, he had paid the, and he was doing better. And only recreation I did was play soccer. That was, and that was the only thing I wanted to do.
How did things change when Hitler became
Well, and across the street was a competitor. He was a big Nazi. So when the Nazis came in, he started, saw that we were persecuted. At one time, SA, the brown shirts, came in, and my dad threw them out. But that didn't help.
They knew you were Jewish.
Oh, yes, sure. And the signs that put, "This is a Jew," and it got so bad that they would stand there with it. They have some of the SA at that time. I don't remember SS that early. SA, I think they changed over. Anyway, what was it called? Oh, they raided our house looking for anti-communist books and something. So they picked up every book that had a red cover, whether it was Shakespeare or whatever, and took them, and then they burned them. They burned the book.
They just took anything with the red cover. They didn't even look at it?
No, I don't know if they could read or not. Anyway, it got worse and worse. So, but my dad was able to get the Jewish community, some bakers and then all over Berlin, because if a Gentile walked into a coal yard, they would take his picture and put it in the paper. He or she buys from a Jew.
So he had all the Jewish businesses?
Well, in the first place, a lot of customers called over telephone. That fake for, but they had the Jewish, maybe the community store level, they had needed coal. And that poor horse wagon, we went all over Berlin. And Berlin is a big city. So that's how I kept it going. But my sister went to Israel in 1934, and
what was the thinking? I mean, what was the conversation at home between your parents and you about, okay, it's time for Friedel to leave, or it's time for Hans to leave?
My folks wanted to get us out of the country. They knew there was no future. A lot of the Jewish people said, "Oh, Hitler go away, that's just temporary." And my folks didn't believe that, and they thought they'd at least get their children out. Well, my sister went to Israel on a kibbutz. That's the only way you could go. And my dad had written to his sister in America, who had come here in 1890.
What was her name?
Tante Francisca. And I want to know, he didn't think I was the kind that would want to wear on a farm in Israel. He didn't think that was my cup of tea. So he wrote on, never heard from him. One day the American embassy called to come to the embassy and pick up our visa.
For you?
Yeah, that's when my dad told me he wrote a letter. He never told me. And we went to and they said, well, here's your ticket for on the SS Washington, and a train ticket from New York to St. Louis, and there's a visa. You're leaving in next week in 10 days.
Well, what was your reaction?
Oh, I was tickled to death.
But you wanted to go.
Yeah, you got so sick of the Hitler youth. They were marching with drums and singing, loudspeakers going all the time. And any kind of holiday, everybody had to have a Nazi flag.
Not you.
No, they didn't. It was terrible. I got to, anyway, I was left on my 16th birthday.
Well, go backwards for a second. Talk about what it was like in Berlin. You were a Jewish boy, but you went to school with everybody else.
Well, that's another story. In 1934, I graduated from the elementary school. I didn't go to high school because in Germany, you start high school after the 4th grade, and you have to pay tuition. My sister, the only one that was high enough so she could, they let her finish. My brother and I had to quit and go. So anyway, at the graduation of at the grammar school, this was a year, Hitler had been in a year, and they used to have religion because the Lutheran church was a state church. They cut that out. They had teachers, that taught religion, regardless of regardless of what religion you were. So they cut that out and put in the racial study. They proved that the blonde, blue-eyed Aryans was superior to everybody else. So I was in the first row. We graduated. The principal of the school motioned for me to come up to the podium, put his arm around me. He told the audience, this is an example of the typical
You have blonde hair and blue eyes?
I had blonde hair and blue eyes. He didn't know I was Jewish. I was the only Jewish in a school of 500. My class teacher knew it, and my the students knew it because I had many fights, and I was pretty tough in those days, and I pretty well held my own. So they finally, my class teacher whispered to
the principal?
after I got out, but he put me up with an example, typical
Wait,
area.
what did she whisper? She whispered and told him the truth?
Yeah, later on, so that was one of the things to prove the Aryan superiority.
Were your parents in the audience?
No,
Just you. Wow, that's
they
amazing.
wouldn't go in there.
All right, so you're 16 and you find out that you got a ticket.
I went to my mother took me to Bremen. She has a sister there, Tante
You got an aunt.
Tante Grete lived there. So they took us to the ship, and I got deadly seasick from going through the channel. But after that, I was all right. But there was an American boat, and I couldn't speak English.
Was it a nice boat?
Oh yeah, there was United. It was one of the. They had two of them, the SS Washington, and they were big luxury boats. They had different classes: first and second, and third class. And every night they had the first class had a big thing. We had a little orchestra. They played the same thing over and over again. Let's See in the Sunset was a hit of the day. They must have played it 50 times. But anyway, I couldn't speak English. So there were some American students. They said, I sent him and said, we'll take care of you. So whatever they ordered, said, this is good, this is good. And when the thing, they like to bring cereal and grapefruit, which you need of. And then the song go by with eggs and all this. But I couldn't order. I didn't have sense enough to ask for a table with a waiter that spoke German. They had. So anyway, I got to New York, and they wouldn't let me off the boat because there wasn't a blood relative to meet me. As one of the Hess's daughter, her husband had a cousin in New York, and they were to meet me. Well, they had to call St. Charles, which was to see whether it was legitimate. And finally, I was the last one to get off the boat. Got off the boat, handed me $25 that they had told them they had paid for, but they didn't give it to me till I left. So you're supposed to tip, you know. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any money. Oh, I forgot to tell you, when I got on the boat ship, I saw these things. People get told on deck up there, and money came out. All you could take out of Germany was 10 marks, which was $2.50 in American money. I hadn't been on the boat 10 minutes, and I was broke. So when I get off ship, I told the steward, it says, my uncle's going to be here and he's going to take care of you. I think they're still waiting on it. Because I didn't get the $25 till I was leaving. So they had a ticket for me to, and these cousins took me to the home, and the next day they had a football game. I'd never seen football. Columbia University playing somewhere.
So these were in New York?
In New York,
yeah.
After I got there, about the second day.
Did they speak German?
No, they spoke Yiddish. And I couldn't understand it pretty well. I didn't speak German. So anyway, they took me to the football game. I thought that is the silliest thing I was people piling on each other. So anyway, then I got on the train. They put me on the train. It took 24 hours from New York to St. Louis. Well, in Germany, you have to have a ticket to get off the train. Well, here the conductor come by and took my ticket.
I don't mean to break in, but hey, Mr. Feist, how you get along?
All right, doing fine.
Good.
Okay.
He took my ticket. You know, all the way in. What happened to the ticket? So anyway, I was afraid to go to the bathroom because I was afraid somebody sit in my seat and I wouldn't know how to. So, and then in the morning they came on with coffee, and I never did like anything in coffee. They put some milk, that was all right, and he asked me, "You want sugar?" And I must have, because he kept putting sugar, I tried to stop him and didn't know how to stop him. So anyway, the train stopped in East St. Louis. I was just St. Louis, I gotta get off. I got off, and there's a soul on the, nobody on the at the station. I said, "There's something wrong." And when he said, "I'm aboard," I got back on. That was in St. Louis.
Did you know what they looked like? Did you know?
No, my cousin was wear some kind of flower. Well, there were the whole bunch of they had 8 children, and they all ended up in that area, St. Louis area, and I think they were all there.
So you were 16. When was this? What was the date of your trip?
I left October the 3rd.
Your birthday?
Yeah, on my birthday. So anyway, the first thing they did, they got me a tutor. St. Charles, where they live, which is just across the river, Missouri River from St. Louis. It was a German settlement. There were farmers, the second generation, and a lot of those children could not speak English when they started school. So they had teachers at the Lutheran school that would teach them English. So they hired the teacher for me to take private lessons. The first thing he said, "You don't ever talk German again, whether you understand it or not. You speak whatever English you can, because if you don't start thinking English, you'll never learn." So anyway, I learned and they want to put me after there's the second semester, the freshman, I think starts in February or something. They want to put me in the grammar school. I said, "I'm not going to grammar, little kid. Put me in high school." I could speak some English, but not too well, so they didn't know what to do. They gave me, I took German, I took manual training, I took art, I took all subjects. I had one subject that had to have English, but otherwise I could get by very well. I was fine until my sophomore year. My sophomore year I had to take freshman and sophomore English, first and second algebra. I had to make up with it. So with my cousins, which was the daughter of Tante Francisca, and her husband had 2 girls, but no boys.
Who was your cousin?
Gretchen and Herman. He didn't know Herman. He died.
What was Gretchen's last name?
What?
What was Gretchen's last name?
Brofman. So the one daughter was a year younger than I was. So we went to school together, and she helped me with some of the English. My cousin had Herman Brofman. He was very, very businesslike. He had the idea that you must wear a tie to school. So every morning I had to wear a tie. As soon as I got outside, take the tie off. Went home for lunch, I put the tie back on, That was before sport shirts. People used to roll up the sleeves. Didn't have t-shirts. That was so then I started after school. I want to play football. The kids all said you got to play football. They didn't have soccer. I liked soccer, but there was no soccer in St. Charles. So you had to the parents had to sign, in case he got hurt or something. They will let you play in their sign. So he wouldn't sign it. I'm not going to sign it. He might get hurt. So I told him, well, I'll send it to Germany. Folks were on there. So his wife Gretchen signed it, and they taught me football and swing training. They worked me over. But by fall, I started playing, and he never missed a game.
What position did you play?
I played guard. In my junior year, I played guard on offense, and the tackle on defense. At that time, the tackle on defense played right behind the line. Anyway, I loved high school because it was so different from the German school, which wasn't like a military school. Here they had dances and every club I could join, I joined, and everything was going on. So in my junior year, I was elected to the I had good grades. I was elected to the National Honor Society, but my cousin Joan, she wasn't. And meanwhile, Herman had passed away in 1938. He had bursted appendicitis, and then that's before penicillin and all that. Anyway, my cousin Gretchen, that it couldn't happen. That I should have been in, and she went. I think she went from to everybody from the school superintendent. But finally, John got it in the senior year. Well, I was lucky enough to be elected co-captain of the football team for the following year. But by that time, my folks had escaped to Belgium, and the only way they would keep them refugees in Belgium if they didn't take any job. They couldn't get them. Weren't allowed to. If they did, they would send them back to Germany.
Did they have any difficulty getting to Belgium?
Well, that's another story. That's the book of they took. My dad was arrested in '38, and he was in different concentration camps until '41, and in French. So anyway, they had to have money, so I started the first semester, and I had to get a job. Well, the store that the family had, Abe, who was London, who was the boss of it, he just couldn't pay me enough. He couldn't afford it. So I got a job. They got me a job at an old shoe company, which at least shoe departments in the department store. So I didn't know when they were going to call. Well, I called up when you come down for an interview with the manager of that department at 9 o'clock in the morning when they opened up. I went there at 9 o'clock. There was nobody in the shoe department, but a customer was in there waiting. So I went over and waited on it. And selling the shoes, and then I turned around, the manager was sitting there, says, "You're hired." But anyway, it wasn't a very nice job. From 9 to 9, they stayed open nights. On Saturday, they stay open till 10 something. Then you had to take inventory so they could reorder from the warehouse. And the salary was $15, but in those days they didn't put on sales like they do now. When you sold a pair, somebody come in that you figured know much about style, you show them shoe 3 years old, because if you sold 3-year-old shoe, you get 30 cents. Then if you sold a handbag to match, then another dime. If you took it to a hosier counter and she bought a hose, you get a nickel. And they're little suede sponges for suede shoes that the company paid 3 cents for. They sold it from a quarter. I always had it in my pocket and showed them I was good, and that you got a dime for that. So by the end of the week, I'd get about $20. And I stayed with Gretchen's sister and her husband in St. Louis. I didn't have to pay to sleep. And I figured out I could send my folks they could live on $50 a month.
Where were they living?
In Brussels at that time. My mother was in the hospital for 6 months. Her feet were frozen on the escape from Germany. But anyway, I sent $50 a month, and it cost $6 to send it over there. So I had to figure out that I could eat on $1 a day. I used to take the streetcar, and I had to change streetcar, and there was a coffee shop. You get to go lunch and a cup of coffee for a dime. At noon, I ate a plate lunch at Walgreens for 30 cents. And at night, I ate a sandwich. I think the sandwich was more than the plate lunch. And then on the way back, when I had to change streetcar, I bought another donut and coffee. So one day, you had to wear a coat because this was the only air-conditioned store in that section of St. Louis, a very well-known neighborhood department store. Goldie's was in there. Had to wear a coat and tie. I had 2 ties, a maroon knit tie and a blue knit tie. So one day at lunch, I was going to lunch, he says, don't come back until you have your coat pressed. So that day I had pressed the coat and didn't eat. So anyway, my aunt, Aunt Francisca, persuaded her sons and daughters that I had no business down there, should come back to St. Charles. And I went back and they paid me $19. But I used to make money painting signs for other stores. I used to work in the basement of the store at night. In fact, when I was in high school, I did my studying down there. Because I had to work in the afternoon, except during football season because of the practice. But otherwise, so I started painting signs for different stores to put on sale. I had a weekly job for Kroger's. They gave me a butcher paper. You make circles for the special. You paste on when you got a nickel for each time. So I always did pretty good. The hardest thing for me was I had to quit high school before I graduated. So I never graduated. But so then
What year did you quit high school? What year did you quit high school?
It's senior year.
So that was
1938, 39. 38 or 39. Anyway, then I decided I'm going to try to go to night school at Washington University.
Now, your parents were still in Belgium?
Yeah.
At that time? Okay.
No, my dad was in Gers concentration camp. They didn't come until 41.
Okay.
But they had left. They had arrested my dad, and the women were in Paris. The reason I didn't have to send any more money is they had tickets to come to America. They didn't have the visa yet. And I don't know how I got the money. I guess my relatives $800 for the tickets. They had that money so my mother could get by. the Jewish women all fled to Paris. On May 10th, the Germans overran Belgium, and all the Jews were arrested.
May 10th.
May 10th, 1940.
Okay.
1939, excuse me. So by that time I was out of school, so it must have been 38, that's right. And so I started working in St. Charles, and that's where I met your grandmother. My uncle had opened a little synagogue in one of the Jewish home, because they were Orthodox and couldn't ride on Saturday. So because St. Louis was 12 miles away, so they had to have somewhere to so they had this. The men sat in the living room, and the women in the kitchen. And Grandma was going to Lindenwood College, which was a girls' school, and one of the day students asked her to spend the holiday with her, go to service with her. Well, she didn't know what kind of service was. So anyway, she had never seen anything like that. I hadn't either. But,
How many people were there?
50, 40 or 50, I don't
An
know.
Orthodox service.
Yeah, my uncle held service, and then he had a sermon in Yiddish. And I couldn't read Hebrew, and there was no English text. So anyway, I had to go every time they have a minion. They come on.
Was this for one of the high holy days? Or
This was Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur, okay.
It was hot. Oh, it was so hot. They had no fans, nothing. So this friend of mine, Manny Kaplan, he said, let's go outside for a while. They stay all day, you know, they don't leave. They wear the white kittle, and so we went outside. And Betty and I forgot her name, she moved to Louisville, but she was pretty big. Manny, there's some distant cousin of Manny Kaplan. So they were walking in front of us. He says, let's ask him to go to show tonight. I says, good, but I want the one on the left. That was Betty. And we met, and then Frances Tucker, her best friend, they went to school together, and she got Betty to come up to the store to buy shoes. She made her go, and she pushed me. So all Betty was talking about her boyfriend in the halls. We didn't do so well. So anyway, we got to be pretty good. We're not really serious. But then after that, she and her dad used to come to St. Louis.
Did you date her while she was still there, though? I mean, did you?
Yeah, I did. She was a freshman, and the freshmen couldn't date except on Sunday afternoons. It was the Presbyterian College, and if you take her to a picture show on Sunday afternoon, then if you did that, you had to go back and stay for a Vesper service. They were pretty strict. In fact, one day I picked Betty up, walked to the show. I had $1. It cost a quarter to go in the show, and we could buy a Coke after. So it started raining. She says, don't you think we ought to take a taxi? I said, oh, it's not going to rain. Because we took a taxi, I couldn't go to the show. I didn't want to. I don't know how we got to the show, but it started raining. So those are some of the funny things we went to. But then they used to come and by in St. Louis several times a year, and they stayed 3 days. So that's when we started dating. The Merchants Association that had the show used to. One time they rented the Admiral on the river. That was we went on there. That was nice. They had big band and they had dinner and had a big band playing, and up on deck you could smooch, you know. So anyway, just after my parents came here, they had.
What year was that?
August 1941. They had a merchant thing. They rented the ballroom of the Chase Hotel. Tommy Dorsey was going to play, and some reason Betty said they couldn't come this trip. So my cousin Gretchen, she was the matchmaker of the family. She'd been pushing me to take one of the cousins had married Bob Miller, you know. But anyway, he had a sister named Jackie. She lived in Hillsboro, Illinois. That was about 60 miles from St. Louis. Then you had to go to St. Charles. Anyway, I wanted to see Tommy Dorsey. And by the way, Frank Sinatra was one of the three cadets. He was a little scrawny guy.
Playing with Tommy Dorsey?
The Tommy Dorsey, yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know, nobody knew Frank Sinatra. So anyway, I wanted to go so bad that, okay, I'll take Jackie. And then Betty called and said, we changed our mind, we're going to be. So I had, they sat on one side of the ballroom and the other. And finally, it was very.
Did you see her at the dance?
Yeah, I saw her at the dance. I told some story that I was going to be there with some. So anyway.